Welcome to Crisis in Perception, where we examine the systems shaping our world one book at a time. Today, we are digging into Sam Harris's The End of Faith, a book that makes the provocative argument that certain ways of believing are on a direct collision course with our modern world. So the book kicks off with this really chilling scene. It's graphic, it's unsettling, and it's right there on the first page. It's designed to immediately pull this very abstract argument down to a devastatingly real scenario. And it forces us to ask, what kind of belief system could possibly lead to this? How could this ever be seen as an accomplishment? And that brings us to the crisis of belief. Harris's argument is that this isn't just some random act of violence. No, it's the logical output of a powerful underlying system. The heart of his analysis isn't really about politics or economics. It's about the very nature of belief itself. Here's the core idea from Harris. Beliefs aren't just these passive thoughts floating around in our heads. They're the active software that we're running on. They are the levers that, once you pull them, dictate our behavior. They shape our emotions, and they literally define our entire vision of the world. So, to really get a handle on this, Harris gives us this fantastic and powerful metaphor, the idea of certain belief systems as a sealed operating system. What on earth does that mean? Well, think of a sealed operating system as a complete framework for reality that's built on claims that are, by their very design, not open to being questioned or revised. Its authority doesn't come from evidence, it comes from a divine source. And that means it's effectively locked down. It can't receive updates. And the contrast here is absolutely key. An open system, like science, is built to be vulnerable. Its whole purpose is to test its own claims and update itself when new evidence comes along. But a sealed system, it does the exact opposite. It's designed to be completely immunized against new evidence, to preserve its ancient, supposedly infallible code. All right, so what happens when you run your entire life on a system that can't be patched or updated, especially when its source code contains some pretty specific variables? This is where the whole incentive structure for how we act just gets turned on its head. When the software treats ideas like eternal reward and eternal punishment as absolute realities, well, the cost-benefit analysis is no longer just about this life. Suddenly, earthly consequences can become secondary. And this leads to a pretty stark conclusion that Harris draws directly from the system's logic. He says, certainty about the next life is simply incompatible with tolerance in this one. I mean, think about it. If you're absolutely certain that your path leads to eternal bliss and that other people's path leads to eternal suffering, tolerance starts to look like a logical contradiction. So that begs a pretty big question, right? If this operating system is so rigid, why does it last for thousands of years? Why don't people just, switch to a more flexible system? Well, according to the book, the answer is that this isn't just software on a single computer, it's an entire network. To question a core belief isn't just an intellectual exercise. It can actually mean risking your identity, your community, your entire moral standing. In other words, you risk total social exile. And that architecture makes the system incredibly resilient. And now we get to the core of the crisis. What happens when this ancient, sealed-off operating system starts interfacing with the unique dangers and technologies of the 21st century? The ultimate danger emerges right here, at this intersection. You have metaphysical certainty that comes from a sealed system on one hand, and on the other, the sudden availability of advanced weaponry. The stakes just go through the roof. This right here reveals the crisis in perception that Harris is talking about. If we treat religiously motivated violence as some isolated, pathological problem, completely separate from the belief system that powers it, we're totally missing the point. We fail to see that this is a conflict over fundamentally incompatible ideas. We're ignoring the structural design of the code itself. Now, to be super clear, Harris makes a really critical distinction here. He separates institutional faith, the sealed operating system, from what he calls spiritual experience, which he frames as a potentially rational, even empirical investigation into one's own consciousness. And this brings us to the final, really provocative challenge that the book leaves us with. This isn't about rejecting meaning or morality. No, instead it reframes the whole thing as a design problem. Given our incredible technological power, the question becomes, how do we build a new moral operating system, one that's based on reason and that's actually capable of guiding us safely into the future? This project is totally free and accessible to everyone. So if you'd like to support the time, tools, and research that goes into crisis in perception, you can become a supporter over on Patreon. And if you want a shorter visual summary of all this, just check out the deep dive that's linked right there in the description. Finally, if you enjoy this kind of systems level analysis, please do like, subscribe, and maybe drop a comment with the next book you'd like to see us explore. Thanks for watching.